Hello everyone. A very good evening to all of you. I hope all of you are having a great time. I'm really happy to be back after a short break. I hope all of you were able to finish your recordings. I also hope that you had a good time finishing your backlogs. Maybe this break gave you some time to finish your pending work. Anyway, as we inch closer to the exam, studies, the amount, the quantity, as well as the quality has to go up. So I really expect that you guys are now all pumped up. I really am after the much needed break for performing well. So if you start counting, we have a very few days left in April, and then you have May, June, July, August, September. I don't really count October and November. I never have. Maybe it's because when I started teaching, CAT used to happen in October, but it's also because even though CAT has shifted and MAT hasn't, IFT hasn't, SNAP hasn't, and this is an aptitude exam. So if you prepared in advance, you know that you will perform well. This is not a college exam where you will sit a night before the exam and prepare everything and perform well. It's not going to happen like that. So your results are going to depend on what you are doing now, what you're going to do in the coming 5 months. So anyway, apart from that, let me introduce myself very quickly to anybody who's new here. My name is Karishma and I am a VARC educator at Unacademy Plus. I am now starting this series known as Improve Your Reading Comprehension. This is actually quite similar to what we were doing last month in the name of DEAR, Drop Everything and Read. And we're going to cover new articles in every session. And with every new article, I'm also going to pose some questions, simple questions like what is the theme, what is the central idea. And of course, I'm going to concentrate on explaining the key terms that might be new to you. For example, today you have an article which talks about a lot of survey data and psychology. So I'm going to explain you some terms. Also, there is a plus course coming up very soon. Very soon means tomorrow, wherein I'm going to cover basics of philosophy, psychology, economics, literature, so on and so forth. And this issue of students that comes up every year where they say, I can't understand what this means because I am, let's say, not a commerce student, or I can't understand a thing because I'm not a humanities student, and so on and so forth. The course that begins tomorrow aims to correct that. Also, before I forget, a very happy Navratri and a holy month of Ramzan. Good wishes to all of you for Navratri as well as Ramzan. Let's begin with today's session. Today's article is from Aeon Essays. It is known as Final Thoughts. I had shared it in the Telegram list that I send you often for reading recommendations. So maybe some of you have read it, but because there were requests from your end that you haven't understood it completely, I'm taking it up today. Let's begin. How do we find out what really matters in life? One way might be to ask those who are dying. So if you really want to find out कि जिंदगी में किस चीज़ के मायने हैं, तो क्या करना चाहिए, किसी ऐसे व्यक्ति से बात करिए जो अभी जाने वाला है. So talk to somebody who's dying. They might occupy a perspective that allows them to see better what is trivial. Trivial is unimportant, petty, tuchh. Okay. So unimportant, and what's truly significant. Okay. So opposites, trivial and significant. The prospect of imminent death. Imminent is about to happen. Imminent rainfall, बारिश होने वाली. Imminent death, जाने वाले. Okay. So imminent death means you're about to die, about to happen. Might carry them above petty squabbles. Squabbles are, when you, conflicts basically, when you fight with people or you get indulged in petty arguments. So if you know that you're dying tomorrow, will you go around arguing with people? You will say, bahar mein jai, right? You will forgive everybody and you'll be like, okay, it's time to go, let's pack up. So when you know it's time to pack up, you will know what is actually important. Then you are not caught in stupid petty affairs and squabbles. And the pursuit of money and status. Pursuit is following, chasing, okay? So will you chase money if you know that you're dying tomorrow? You'll forget the cat also, yes, isn't it? So, and status, and allow them a clear view of the goods that make our lives worthwhile. So only when we are dying, we get a true perspective of what is really important for us and what is actually something that has some purpose. What really matters, it turns out, is family and relationships and authenticity. So 3 things that the author is mentioning. I'll give you a homework at the end of the session, okay? So please note down these points. They may help you to do the homework faster. At least that's what people apparently report from the deathbed. There is very little systematic research on this question, but there is some unsystematic research. So systematic research is where you have data and surveys and somebody doing an effort. Unsystematic research is you talking to people, okay, taking interviews just like that, maybe on a trip. This is unsystematic research. So on this topic, there is no systematic research. There is little. Little means negligible. I've covered this on Instagram as well as I've taught you in the grammar course. So little means negligible. Search the internet for regrets of the dying. So if you Google this, regrets of the dying, the chances are that you will hit upon a website or a newspaper article that talks about the work of Bronnie Ware. This is really common. I'm sure you have heard about this before, even before you read this article. So there was this nurse who used to work with people in palliative care in the US, and she used to speak to people who are dying, and then she came up with 5 major points about regrets of the dying. So when you Google it, this is the most common hit result that comes up. An Australian former nurse, Australian, not American, whose blog recording bedside conversations became the basis of a best-selling book. According to her, the dying expressed 5 common regrets. Let's see them. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not Sharma ji ka beta. Okay, so not the life that others expect of me. I should be true to myself. I should do what I want to do. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. Nobody wants to, you keep working 10 to 12 hours a day on your laptop, and then you come to know you're dying tomorrow. What a miserable death it would be. Right? So I wish I had not worked so hard. I wish I had the courage to express my feelings. Okay, so go and tell your crush that she or he is your crush, but please remember that you don't get crushed. Okay, I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. Very, very important. Okay, I wish I had let myself be happier. So how many times do you actually choose happiness, or do you just give up your happiness in the pursuit of something bigger like money, only to realize that money is not that important? By the way, the tone of the article is going to change very soon. Okay, the author is not saying all good things about it. The article is exactly not is exactly the opposite of what is coming to your mind right now. Okay, so please stay tuned. Broadly, people seem to wish for a more meaningful life. They wished that they had been more authentic in their activities. This is conveyed in point number 1 and 3. This is 1, okay, and this is 3. So this is authenticity. And they also wish that they prioritize friends and themselves. So it's very common. It can be seen in point number 2, 4 and 5. Okay, so these points tell us that we should have been more authentic, okay, and prioritized ourselves. They wished, in short, that they had stopped and smelled the roses. So how many times do you stop and smell the roses on the roadside, or do you just let go of them because they are just another ordinary flower and you just go by it? All right. Along with almost everyone else, I find it plausible. Plausible is believable. This is a common adjective which is used for excuses. So if you give me a plausible excuse, it means, you're believable. You sound very much reliable and credible. That these things are very valuable, and that they are components, though far from the only ones of a meaningful life. So they are components, not the only components, but yeah, the important components of a meaningful life. Now the author says, I'm not convinced that the reported regrets of the dying provide us with reasons to think them as valuable. So just because 100 or 1,000 dying people said that these are the valuable things in life, and they reported something like this, does it become true? So the author starts questioning this entire theory, which is what is very popular on the internet. I'm skeptical first of the reports themselves. So he starts by saying that I'm skeptical of the reports themselves. So जो reports आ रही हैं from the Australian nurse and people, talking about deathbed conversations, he's doubting the reports themselves. Let's see how and why. There are various cultural pressures that might lead people to report such regrets, where they feel them or not, and might lead us to attribute them to the dying, whether they report them or not. So कहता है कि भाई cultural pressure is so much that people may want to report such regrets even when they don't have it. It's like saying namaste to an auntie even if you don't like it. But why are you doing it? Because culturally it is appropriate to do so, and your parents and everybody has taught you to respect elders and blah blah blah. So maybe it's a cultural pressure and you say things that you don't mean. Maybe you don't feel them, okay? And of course we attribute them, we characterize them, we associate them to the dying people, whether they said it or they didn't say it. So even if somebody is dying and they didn't say it but they gave us some hint, we will assume that they want to say this because we are already biased, something like confirmation bias. We've discussed this in an earlier session. So confirmation bias happens and people want to think what they want to think, okay? Second, and more importantly, I doubt that the perspective of the dying gives them a clearer view on what really matters. तो पहला तो उसने बोला कि भाई I don't trust the reports. There could be cultural pressure from the reporter as well as the reportee. Second, he is saying that I doubt the perspective of the dying. So if you are dying, how clear a view can you have about what really matters? So let's say if you're on your deathbed, counting your last moments or days or hours or whatever, Can you actually think clearly? Is your judgment not clouded already? There are reasons to think that the view from the deathbed is worse, not better, than the view in the midst of life. So when you are living and alive and kicking, maybe you're able to think properly, but when you're on your deathbed, who knows whether you're thinking properly at all? Who knows whether you're able to think at all or not, for that matter? Their lack of engagement in ongoing projects might leave them with an impoverished sense of their value. Poverty, poor, same word, okay? So impoverished is poor. So when I'm dying and I know that all of this is going to end, what sort of value will I associate to myself? I'll feel very poor. All right, that happens with most people. Even the biggest billionaires feel very poor when they are dying because they know that nothing is going to stay and everything is going to get snatched away. So are they thinking at all? So that's another problem that author says that he encounters when he listens to these arguments. I want you to understand these terms properly. They are very common in psychology based articles. Baki, we will discuss psychology in detail in the upcoming course that starts tomorrow. Anyway, I'm not the first person to wonder whether deathbed regrets are epistemically privileged. Now let's understand this term. Now, epistemical or epistemic means related to knowledge, ज्ञान से जिसका लेना देना है. Privileged का मतलब है you have some facilities or you have rights or extra amenities that the other people don't have. Okay, so epistemically privileged simply means that you, because of your position XYZ, anything, it could be gender, it could be a position in the society, it could be position in terms of finances, they put you in a better place than the other people. They make you more advantaged than the other people to make an opinion or to have an opinion about something. So you should understand this term. So for example, if I and my husband, let's say both of us start talking about women issues, I am epistemically privileged, right? Because I am a woman and I know what our bodies are, what our struggles are. My husband may not be able to speak from the same amount of experience, even if he empathizes with me. So this is epistemically privileged. So he says that deathbed regrets, are they actually people who are privileged and are they in the right position to talk about death, or can the living people also talk about it? So this is another doubt that he's raising, and he's saying that I'm not the first one who's raising this doubt. The American philosopher Eric Schwitzgebel gives two reasons why we should be cautious in giving them significant weight. First, the dying might be subject to hindsight bias. Hindsight is piche. For example, I say in hindsight, I feel that taking science in 11th standard wasn't a good decision. Maybe I would have scored better if I took commerce. This is hindsight. Piche dekhna. Bias, everybody knows. I have a diagram to show it to you. This is hindsight bias. So this is like humans, they created machines and everything and technology, and now they are saying that even though we helped him build it, I always knew that it was a bad idea. हाइंडसाइट बायस को आसान शब्दों में बोलते हैं न्यू इट ऑल एटीट्यूड. तो जब भी कुछ गड़बड़ हो जाता है, आवर मोस्ट कॉमन स्टेटमेंट इज आई टोल्ड यू, मैंने कहा था, मुझे पता था यही होगा. एंड देन दिस गिव्स यू अ फॉल्स opinion about yourself that you can predict the future well. So this is known as hindsight bias. So this says first, the dying might be subject to hindsight bias in the form of a tendency to assume that their current epistemic perspective looking back on the past is identical to the perspective that they should have adopted at the time. When I am 60 and let's say dying, and I think that doing X at the age of 30 was wrong. So when I say this, I assume that at 60, my perspective is the same as it should have been at 30. What we don't realize is that the situations are completely different. So maybe in that situation, maybe at 30, this was something that I wanted to do, or it was a majboori, a constraint that I should have done it. But at 60, I may feel something completely different. So if they say कि ये करना चाहिए था जवानी में, life में, we are assuming that their perspective has not changed. Take the advice that people should prioritize fulfillment over money. So now he's giving you an example. So let's say there is this statement that we should prioritize fulfillment, satisfaction over money. Money is secondary. That advice is easier to find compelling from the perspective of the financially comfortable. So now let's say I'm earning, and then I tell you, okay, CAT is just a part of life and you will make money, don't worry, money is not a big deal. So my advice to you is coming at the age of 33 when I'm already earning and doing well in life. Probably this would not have been my advice when I was myself preparing for my entrance exams at the age of 19. So what I thought at the age of 19 and how I feel at the age of 33 at 14 years later, it's very different, okay? I did not feel at 19 that, okay, this is just a part of life. At the age of 19, I thought, what you think? I want to make my parents proud. I want to make a little money. I want to be self-dependent and blah, blah, blah. So this is what it says. present self than it is from the perspective of the worried past self struggling to make ends meet. To make ends meet is you're unable to manage your expenses, okay? So somebody who has struggled with finances and somebody who's already making money and is settled, two people cannot be talking from the same perspective. In fact, the perspective is going to change even if it's the same person at two different stages of life. Even if the person who offers the advice was herself once poor, she might easily romanticize the past. तो होता है ना कि पहले फेलियर था या पैसे नहीं थे, अभी सक्सेस है और पैसा आ गया, या वट एवर यू से. अभी हम क्या करते हैं, हम अपने पास्ट को रोमांटिसाइज करते हैं इन पार्ट बिकॉज मेमोरीज ऑफ डे टू डे लाइफ टेंड टू बी क्राउडेड आउट बाय मेमोरीज ऑफ पीक मोमेंट्स. सो व्हाट डू वी रिमेंबर peak moments. What are peak moments? Moments of happiness, and we forget the struggle that has gone behind it. So let's say I would remember that I went to Jamia, which is a top college, but I don't remember the amount of hard work that went behind it. Who remembers it? The struggle and the drama and trying to fill the forms and trying to convince my parents and everything. Oh, we just forget it. We just remember the peak points. So because we remember the peak points, we are probably romanticizing our past. We are not very unbiased about it. Perhaps I recall my time of relative poverty as better than it really was. So maybe I was garib, okay, and I felt miserable. But now when I talk about it in the sense that it was better than it really was. So maybe I was really sad at that time, but now I'm not so sad about it. I'm casual about it when I talk about it. Because I remember dancing to the radio in the kitchen and I don't remember struggling to pay the bills. Okay, so this is romanticizing the past. My biased recollection could easily lead me to underestimate how much money really mattered to a decent life. So अभी पैसा है तो it's okay, but जब नहीं था तो कितनी हालत ख़राब थी वो भूल जाते हैं, right? So because you have it. I've already explained this to you. Also a quick break. So the course that I was talking to you about starts tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow 7:30 we are starting with reading comprehension genre simplified. You guys call it popcorn course, you guys call it knowledge sessions, whatever you want. So I'll see you tomorrow at 7:30. I'm going to pick up political and economic theories tomorrow. A very, very interesting session, I tell you. So keep your popcorns and notebooks with you. Another course that starts day after tomorrow is paragraph based questions. A lot of you have sent me messages about para jumbles, para completion, para summary, etc. Also today, immediately after this session at 5:15 p.m, I have a free class on this, okay, paragraph based questions. You just need to use my code Karishma, go to the Unacademy website or app, and you will find it in my profile. The class begins right after this session at 5:15. Okay, and this is a May course. I'll talk about it later. Schwitzbell's second reason for wariness. I've taught you the word wary in vocabulary. Wary is cautious, chaukanna, okay, dhyan rakhna. So cautiousness. So Schwitzbell's second reason for being cautious about deathbed regrets arises from the fact the dying escape the consequences of their advice. So let's say you ask me a question about CAT, okay, and you are my student and I am in touch with you, okay, and I am answerable to you in certain places. When you ask me something, if I don't know, I should be saying I don't know. I know that if I give you wrong pieces of advice, then I may have to face consequences. For example, an action by you, a complaint by you, or simply a grudge by you, if not a complaint. Because you will say कि मैम आपने गलत सलाह दी थी. But somebody who is dying, उसको कौन accountable hold करेगा? So when I know that I am dying, I can say anything, right? And I can get away with it. I have no risk of accusation of hypocrisy if I fail to live up to it. So I can say whatever I want when I'm dying, and then you can blame my ancestors. I don't care because I won't be here anymore. So because they can't be expected to try, and they're not trying anything. So even if I'm dying and I tell you that, okay, I can see Yamdut from here, and somebody is coming to take me, and if you believe me, you believe me. Let's say it turns out to be false when you are on your deathbed. You will not say that Karishma ma'am was lying while she was dying. Even if you say it doesn't matter, no, because I'm already dead 20 years ago. So this is what it says. There is a lack of a stake. कुछ भी दाव पे नहीं लगाए जब मर रहे होते हैं, तो कुछ भी एडवाइस दे सकते हैं, और इसीलिए फैंटेसाइज करने के लिए we are free. Okay, I know this is harsh, but he's being very critical about why deathbed conversations cannot be completely reliable. They're called to live upon up to our own advice can't. For that reason, Schwitzbell suggests that we might do better to prefer the wisdom of 40-somethings. Go and talk to people who have spent 40 years on the planet. Probably they can give you better advice than a person who's actually dying and is probably not even in his senses. Those who have experienced enough and they still have a stake in living. अभी लगा हुआ है कुछ दाव पर और काफ़ी ज़िंदगी जी चुके हैं, तो शायद इनकी advice better होगी. That's what Schwitzbell says. While these concerns are significant, they don't seem sufficient to eliminate any sense for the view that the deathbed is epistemically privileged. For one thing, the status of the hindsight bias is contested. Contested means there is competition there. Okay, so what is the contest? The Australian philosopher Brian Hedden has argued, in hindsight, we often have a better grasp of what our total evidence at the time actually was and what propositions are actually supported. So propositions are theories. I can see some of you sending me random questions about courses and stuff. I think you should ask me questions at 5:15 in the special class. That's the right place to do so. Let's not do it on YouTube, otherwise I won't be able to finish the article. So this is another philosophy by an Australian philosopher, Brian Hedden. He said that जब हम पीछे देखते हैं in hindsight, we have a better grasp of what our total evidence was. तो अभी मैं ज़्यादा बेहतर सोच सकती हूँ कि साइंस लेना अच्छा था या नहीं था. But when in 2004 I was asked to make a choice, I chose science and I did it willingly. Nobody forced me to do it. So now when I regret it, maybe now I'm in a better position because I have all the evidence needed. Then I did not have any evidence. I was 15. I didn't know what to do and I did what I think was right. Anyway, so this is the competition to what is said above. The objection that the dying are suspiciously free of the need to abide by their own advice seems to generalize too broadly. तो भी मरने वाले अपनी एडवाइस खुद तो फॉलो करनी नहीं तो कुछ भी एडवाइस दे सकते हैं. We often and apparently appropriately seek advice from people who won't follow it themselves. So asking about death posing a question about death to a dying person doesn't help much. Why? Because it's like going to a guru who never got married talking about our marriage issues. Celibate is somebody who doesn't get married, okay? Celibacy means brahmacharya, right? So you're going to a celibate priest and then you're asking him, oh, my husband bothers me, oh, my wife bothers me, and he gives you advice also and probably takes some donation also. But that's ridiculous, isn't it? Because he doesn't know it. He doesn't know what it is like to stay in Grasta Ashram. Ask me, okay? But anyway, let's do it after the class. Together, these concerns could give us reason for downgrading deathbed advice to some degree. तो ये सारे concerns हमें downgrade करने पे मजबूर कर देते हैं deathbed advice को. लेकिन ये compatible है that it nevertheless has special epistemic weight. लेकिन फिर भी उसका कुछ तो वजन है ही. We can reinforce Schwitzgebel's skepticism. Skepticism, I hope everybody has understood by now. It's doubt. With a third worry. तीसरी चिंता क्या है? The regrets of the dying are platitudes. Platitudes are लातों के भूत बातों से नहीं मानते. Practice makes a man perfect. जो होता है अच्छे के लिए ही होता है. Karma is a bitch and everything. Sentences that are repeated over and over, and this is why you find them boring, but they're also true. Okay, so truisms. Okay, taken for granted pieces of folk wisdom. पापा ने बोला जो होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है, मैंने बोला जो होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है. Now my beta also says जो होता है अच्छे के लिए होता है. So when I'm dying, maybe I'm repeating such platitudes. And that very fact is grounds for wondering about the sincerity and about the representatives. So how sincere was I when I was dying and I said that, oh, I wish I did not work hard at office? Because right now, if you ask me, I work very hard at my office and I like it and I'm proud about it. Maybe 20 years later when I'm dying, I will not be proud about it. But right now I am. So this is why the sincerity of what I say at my deathbed is again to be questioned. Whereas the top 5 secrets of the dying gives us anecdata. Anecdata is described here already, not carefully collected evidence. बस वो nurse थी और उसको जो ठीक लगा उसने लिखा बातें करके. We don't know how broad a range of patients जो अभी experiment कर रहे तो the sample should be unbiased. I've taught you in CR. कितने साल तक चला, palliative care में वो काम करती थी, बहुत ज़्यादा broad नहीं था. She was working for an agency that provided help in the homes of those who could afford such services. Or maybe you're talking to rich people only. What if you talk to a poor person and he would say, oh, I wish I made more money? So a rich person is saying that I wish I hadn't worked so hard. A poor person dying must have said probably at deathbed that maybe I should have made more money. Maybe I should have worked harder. Maybe I should have given a better life to my wife or whatever. Nor do we now know that how systematically she has reported the regrets she heard. So there is no proper study that she has done. She was a nurse, okay? She just wrote down her experience. Perhaps certain things struck her more forcefully than others, and she was likely to remember them. So, for example, I was on a trip, you guys know that. So if you ask me, I will tell you the highlights of the trip, right? And I will tell you things that hit me hard. I will not tell you the ordinary things. I will not tell you I paid $350 to an auto wala. That is something which was expected and mundane. Maybe, but I should tell you that, okay, I saw so much of snow in my life for the first time. Why? Because this is something I wanted to remember. And this is why we don't know how true she was when she was reporting about deathbed advice. Beyond these considerations, there are reasons to worry that both what was actually said to her and what she recalls being said were shaped by expectations and cultural pressures. तो अभी ये भी नहीं पता है. मैं जो सुनना चाहती हूँ मैंने वही सुना. अभी मैं ब्यूटी देखना चाहती हूँ तो मुझे ट्रिप पे ब्यूटी दिखी. अगर आप गंदगी देखना चाहते तो यकीन जानिए ट्रिप पे गंदगी भी बहुत थी, इंडिया है आफ्टर ऑल, तो भी सफाई तो ज़्यादा कहीं नहीं है, तो वो भी दिखा, लेकिन उसके बारे में बात नहीं करता है कोई. वाई? बिकॉज वी वॉन्ट टू रिमेंबर द गुड थिंग्स. द टॉप रिग्रेट्स ऑफ द डाइंग आर सस्पिशियसली फेमिलियर. तो ये ऐसे हर मरने वाला बंदा ऐसे सस्पिशियसली फेमिलियर बातें करता है. सो most people dying are saying the same thing, so then there is a suspicion, oh, I'm doubtful as an author. It turns out that the dying value exactly the same thing that the culture tells us to value. तो अभी मैं वही बातें कर रही हूँ मरते मरते जो मैंने ज़िंदगी भर सीखी हैं फ्रॉम एडवर्टाइजिंग एंड मैगजीन्स, what my culture has taught me. So maybe when I'm dying and I say, oh, I wish I made more money, I should have taken 80 hours of classes rather than 40, it will sound very shallow, isn't it? The author has written it again. Okay, the variously attributed saying no one ever said on their deathbed, I wish I had spent more time at the office, has 40,000 hits on Google. So you see, this is culturally embedded to us, into us. How deeply such sentiments resonate with us, that friendship and family and feelings are valuable is surely part of the reason why we value them. अभी सब लोग बोलते हैं ना कि फ्रेंड्स इंपॉर्टेंट है, फैमिली इंपॉर्टेंट है, फीलिंग्स इंपॉर्टेंट है, तो हमको लगता है हाँ इंपॉर्टेंट है. आई टेल यू समथिंग वेरी पर्सनल, आई नेवर हैड फ्रेंड्स इन लाइफ एंड एवरीबडी अराउंड एल्स हैड. And they party, and then social media also is friends, friends and friends. So I always thought that having a friend is a great deal. I never had a friend. I thought that I'm a loser, okay, because I don't have friends. Why? Because my culture has told me that having a friend is very important. But if you ask me honestly, I would say no, it's not. I am my own friend and I'm okay the way I am. Maybe if I had a friend, it would have been better. But now that I don't have it, it's okay. By the way, I do have one friend. I just hope that she's not listening to me right now. Otherwise, we'll break up. Anyway, so but the everyday banality of the advice gives us reason for suspicion. Banality is, being ordinary. Banal, ordinary, trite, boring, mundane. These are all synonyms. TRITE. The ubiquity. Ubiquity is being common, present everywhere. Ubiquitous is the adjective. The ubiquity of the advice suggests that there is a cultural script in play. बस हर बंदा जो मर रहा है वो कह रहा है यार काश पैसा नहीं तो हैप्पीनेस पे ध्यान दिया, तो लगता है यार देयर इज सम साजिश गोइंग आउट और व्हाट है. हाउ इज एवरीबडी सेइंग द सेम थिंग व्हेन दे आर डाइंग? देयर इज डेफिनेटली कल्चर एट प्ले हियर. It is a set of expectation that shapes what is said and what is heard. Perhaps our expectations lead us to fit what the dying say into the established script. तो वो बोल रहे होते हैं ABCD बट हमको सुनाई देता है XYZ बिकॉज हमारे को उसी की आदत है. कन्फर्मेशन बायस, लाइक आई टोल्ड यू. Perhaps where, for example, turn more ambiguous or non-committal statements into those she reports, or perhaps she recalls and reports only those that she likes to report and ignores who knows how many others that don't fit. On the other hand, perhaps the script shapes what's actually said. Perhaps her reports are accurate and representative, but they were expressed because these are the kinds of things that is one is supposed to say. So ये भी हो सकता है कि the nurse wanted to report things that she likes and she does not report things that she does not like, okay, because she has her own cultural bias. Then the other thing is that maybe her reports were absolutely true and concrete and accurate, but the people who are dying are saying things that they actually don't mean. So what is the authenticity here? There is no authenticity. We don't know. It was not a systematic experiment. The dying person knows fully well that if they say that they regret not making more money or not spending more time at the office, they'll be seen as very shallow. Imagine I'm dying and I tell you, अबे यार ज़्यादा पढ़ाना चाहिए था, अबे 2-3 लाख रुपए और छापने चाहिए थे, तो अब क्या बोलूँ, क्या पागल इंसान है, मर रही है और पैसा सोच रही है. सो मे बी मरने के टाइम पे कोई पैसे की बात करता ही नहीं है. एक और रीज़न भी है, मरने के टाइम पे पैसे की बात करने से फ़ायदा क्या है जब पता है कि पैसा यूज़ नहीं कर सकते. दैट्स अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट दैट द ऑथर हैज़ रिटन. यू सी how there is so much to talk about. To contradict one single point, this is a technique that you should develop when you are handling WATs, when you are handling essay writing after you get calls from whatever colleges that you are going to, because critical analysis is very important, okay. If cultural scripts are responsible for what is reported or what is remembered, it might well be that these nuggets is tukde, okay, nuggets of wisdom. I'm sure some of you know chicken nuggets, circulate so widely and are repeated so often, not because they come from the dying, if at all they are coming from the dying, rather it might be because they are truisms that are attributed to the dying. तो हो सकता है कि भाई मरने वाले कुछ नहीं बोल रहे हैं, बट हमको आदत है मरने वाले व्यक्तियों के साथ ऐसी बातें करने की, तो हम लोगों ने इसको सच मान लिया है. If that is right, the idea that we should give these regrets special weight because they are expressed by the dying gets things backwards. तो हम इसीलिए चीज़ों को वजन दे रहे हैं because we expect the dying people to say such things, or are they actually being said by people on deathbeds? We don't know. What if further research indicates that the dying really do express such regrets and we found out that genuinely express, अगर पता चले कि नहीं सच में बोल रहे थे, okay, तब क्या वजन है इन बातों में? ऑथर कहते हैं मैं अभी भी नहीं मानता, बड़ा ढीठ है, आई एम स्टिल skeptical. The idea that the perspective from death is epistemically privileged is one with a distinguished philosophical pedigree. Pedigree is hierarchy, okay? Ancestors and everything. Your family tree is your pedigree. Existentialists in particular are associated with the idea that holding the fact of our inevitable deaths in mind can help in achieving authenticity. The existentialism I'll teach you in philosophy ka course, I mean the course that's starting tomorrow when we do a philosophy class. So existentialists कहते हैं कि भाई if you remember death, then you will be an authentic person. Okay, you will also behave individually because then you're not concerned about society and relations. This for him entails that awareness of my death enables me to grasp my authentic being while evading. Evading is running away, escaping. Contemplation is thinking of my death, allows escaping into authenticity. So if I forget, if I stay like a person who's never going to die, I'll not be authentic. If you want to be authentic in life, you need to remember that you are here temporarily, right? So that is again something which has been said philosophically, but the author is not really in agreement with this. I'll paste this up a little because we are short of time. The time is almost over. So a few slides that are left, I will give you the source of the article in the end and you should go through it afterwards. Okay, so another thing that he says is that authenticity की बात कर अभी इसमें अपील तो है, but it cannot vindicate. Vindicate, I've taught you this word is absolve, इल्ज़ाम हटाना, कि डाइंग लोग हमको स्पेशल इंसाइट दे सकते. कहता है इल्ज़ाम अभी भी नहीं हटता, द ब्लेम इज स्टिल देयर. ओके, वाई? बिकॉज वॉट इज ऑथेंटिसिटी? इट इज़ अबाउट हियरिंग वन्स ओन इनर वॉइस. द डाइंग पर्सन इज इन अ बेटर पोजिशन टू सी वॉट रियली मैटर्स फॉर हर, but it does not mean that his wisdom indicates what matters most for me. So somebody who's dying can say that, okay, I wish I had not worked so hard, but if I take his advice and I stopped working hard at 20, I'm going to have a miserable life, isn't it? So this is what the author says, that इल्ज़ाम अभी भी नहीं हटा है. I want to suggest that this thought might have it backwards. हम उल्टा कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? हमें वो मर रहे हैं इसलिए हम उनकी बात को इम्पोर्टेंस दे रहे हैं, ये ठीक नहीं है. The view from the deathbed, again he repeats, might be poor and not rich because it is outside of everyday concerns. मरने वाले व्यक्ति की चिंताएं ही अलग हैं, उसका कंसर्न ही अलग है, तो वो हमें सही एडवाइस नहीं दे सकता है. By the way, these are the upcoming rates today. I think the price hike starts at Unacademy. I'm here after a break, so I don't know, but I think 14th April is the date. So these are the revised rates, so please go through them and you can use my code Karishma Live for the discount. I will quickly see. Yeah, so I'll quickly finish this. I'm leaving 2 slides, okay? You can read them on your own and I'll wind this up here. Just a moment. Yeah, so perhaps the perspective from the deathbed authentically reflects what matters for those who are forced to withdraw from ongoing activities in view of their foreshortened temporal. Temporal means time, समय. What is temporal horizon? I've written here. It is the distance लेकिन time के matter में, समय के हिसाब से, 1 hour for example, over which behavioral events can influence behavior and what has value for them. तो समय के हिसाब से बदल जाता है, तो अभी पता चल जाए that we are not here for long, your thinking is going to change, but their wisdom doesn't illuminate what has value for who are lucky enough to be able to continue to engage in worthwhile telic activities. Telic is something, that will see an end. So for example, if I know that I'm going to stay alive for at least 1 month, so I'm launching a new course tomorrow and I'm excited about it and I'm preparing for it and working hard for it. But if I come to know that I'm dying tomorrow, then bahar mein gaya course. I will not even have time to probably submit a resignation letter, right? So somebody who's going to die and somebody who's alive and doesn't know that he's dying, their values will not match, their advice will not match, okay? Companionship, contemplation, beauty, they remain available to the dying and take on extra force, but their perspective is partial. Perhaps from the deathbed, certain goods are grasped, especially forcefully, but others slip away. It's not because these commitments lack value that they are seen as pallid or pointless. It's because their value can be fully grasped only from the inside. Life की बहुत सारी चीज़ें तभी समझी जा सकती हैं जब हम उन्हें अंदर से समझे, बाहर से नहीं. तो बाहर से बात कर रहा है व्यक्ति जो जा रहा है, तो उसकी एडवाइस हमारे लिए उतनी वैलिड हो या नहीं कह नहीं सकते. I really want you to summarize the passage, okay, and read whatever is left. Keep your summary as short as maximum 75 words, okay? And this is the headline. Why is the deathbed perspective considered so valuable? Aeon essays. Also, I am taking free classes on 17th of April and 24th of April. You just need to use my code to be able to attend these classes. This class is the most important. Know the exams. I'm going to discuss all exams except CAT. We have done part 1 of it, which is also available on my profile. The next YouTube session will happen on Friday, which is 16th. Okay. The weekly scholarship test is happening on Sunday 12 p.m. These are the upcoming batches and the iconic subscription that you can take, ask it out feature that you can avail on Unacademy. And that's all for today. Not really, because I will see you in the free class at 5:15. Go quickly take a break, have lots